Welcome to the webinar for today. We are going to be talking about SkuGrid, the price monitor and repricer. This is an excellent dropship management tool that we recently found, and I wanted to share with everybody. So if you haven't signed up yet, this is the URL I would like you to use. This is actually my link to SkuGrid, so I'd appreciate it if you use that. This gives you a tiny short one there, but tiny, T-I-N-Y URL.com/SkuGrid, S-K-U-G-R-I-D. We'll get you there to set up. When you come to that link there, you'll see a screen like this that says Price Monitor and Repricer, and you'll have a free 7-day trial option if you haven't already taken advantage of that. And then once you get started there, once you create an account and log in, then you'll have the links that you see across the top here. These are a little different than what you might see before you logged in, because I am actually logged into the account here. So the main things I'm going to talk about today will be the My Items, Settings, Subscriptions, and Stores links. So those are the beginning areas that I want to start with. So first, once you well, actually, let's start right here. Once you create an account or you sign up for SkuGrid, the first thing they're going to do is take you to this subscriptions page. And you'll see a page like this showing the plans for you to choose. Okay. And this starter plan is sufficient for most of you as you're getting started. Basically, if you've got 100 to 200 items on your eBay account, then this is enough to manage those very effectively. Okay. So, as stated on the first screen there, what SkuGrid does is it monitors the products that you have connected to it that are listed on your eBay account and reprices them for you if prices change. So if you really want to build this into a big business, you want to become an authority out there on eBay and start seeing some serious sales, then you need to have hundreds and eventually thousands of products listed on your eBay account. And as you may know, if you've started with this, with the dropship strategy, managing those products can become a headache if you're doing that all manually and doing it by yourself. Then it can be quite a pain to manage that many products. If prices change, you've got to be on top of it. You've got to know it. So SkuGrid takes all of that off your hands and takes care of that for you. And so what we're going to talk about in this series largely is how to use this effectively to manage your accounts for you. Okay, so this is the plan that I would suggest is this starter plan, 50,000 credits for $14.99 per month. So you'll connect that to your PayPal account, and this is a subscription. So once you agree to that agreement there, it's going to take that $14.99 each month, once each month, from your PayPal account. And for that, you get 50,000 credits. Well, what are those credits? So let's clarify that. The credits are to be used each time SkuGrid does an action for you. So if they go check the store, your supplier for the product, they check the price there for you, that uses 1 credit. And then if they reprice an item for you, that uses 1 credit. And so you've got quite a few credits here that will allow you to build this up. It shouldn't take much at all for you to be able to pay for that. You know, $15 a month is well worth the value that you're getting out of this. So I would say if you've got 100 to 150 or even 200 products up there and having them checked every 3 to 5 hours, you're probably not even going to hit that 50,000 credits or maybe get close to it. And the great thing about SkuGrid is whatever you don't use each month rolls over to the next month. So if the first month you only have 50 or 60 items up on eBay and you only use 10,000 credits, then the following month you'll have 40,000 carried over added to your new 50,000. And so now you've got 90,000 credits. And so I think this is a very good tool to start early when you're just beginning in your eBay account, where you might only have a few dozen products listed or 50 to 80 or something listed there, because then any credits that aren't used for that first month are going to compound into the next month, and so on and so forth. Now, I hope that you will build your business fairly quickly to the point where you do need to upgrade, where you might need to come in and say, okay, I'm going to need 250,000 credits each month for $30 a month instead of the 15. And if that is what you need because of the number of items you got up there, that's great. That's fantastic. Now, I like that they have this here. Notice they're stating here 250,000 credits will allow you to check 1,000 items every 3 hours. So you can do a lot with this. I mean, think about that. If you got 1,000 items listed on eBay, you're going to see some sales. I mean, the sales are going to happen. Okay, so that's a little bit about subscriptions. If you have any questions about that, type them in for me for those who are on the live webinar here, and I'll be happy to answer those questions. In fact, that's the case throughout this webinar. If you have questions, please type them in to the question box there. If you're watching this later as a recording, then of course you would send those questions to your coach. All right, so that's the first part. You get set up on the subscription. I've set myself up on the 50,000 credits for the $14.95 or $99 a month, and you can unsubscribe from that and cancel that anytime if you know, heaven forbid, things don't go the way you want them to. But hopefully, you're working this business, you're building it up, and you're only going to increase that because you're going to have more listings. So let's talk a little bit about setting it up. So we go to the settings tab once you have your subscription complete. Okay, and in the settings tab, we want to go over here to marketplace or marketplaces. So currently it's the second from the far right of these tabs up here. That may change, you know, who knows, tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now, SkuGrid could upgrade and make changes to their site, and it might look a little different. But that's what we're looking for, is the marketplaces where we'll find eBay. Now notice that we do have eBay and Amazon as options here. I do not recommend going to Amazon until you are very experienced in making money with eBay. If you've got 500 to 1,000 items up on eBay and you're making money consistently and you understand it very, very well, you've got a lot of experience under your belt, then you might be ready for Amazon. Amazon is far less forgiving than eBay is, and so it's not a learner's place to play. You know, it's for when you are advanced. So, but great thing is you can use the SkuGrid for either of these marketplaces. So eBay, we go in there and then we choose our country, US here. And you're going to have a link here that will tell you to connect your eBay account. And it's going to give you these application IDs, certificate IDs, developer key, eBay authorization token is all going to be populated automatically for you. I've actually got another webinar out there already that talks about setting that up and goes through that process. Mine's already set up, so we won't be showing you that today, but once you do complete it, it should bring you back to this page and that should be populated. If it's not, I would recommend getting a hold of eBay to talk to them and tell them that you're trying to connect the SkuGrid products. Unfortunately, you're not going to find that all of the eBay reps and maybe even a few of them are familiar with it, but they might be able to research it and find out, you know, why it's not working if it doesn't work right for you right away. So check their support if you run into any problems there so that you can get it resolved. Uh, all right, so once we've got that set up, then the next thing we're going to do is go through all of our settings. And so we've got these details right here. So the default quantity is when they create a listing or update a listing for you, what do we want the quantity to be defaulted to? If you are fairly new to eBay and have smaller limits, then we don't want to put high quantities on there, because each one of those quantities counts towards your limit. If you have a limit of 100 items, for example, and you put 10 up with a quantity of 10 on each of those, you're at your limit. You've hit 100. And so I would keep that at 2. They'll update it if you sell one, so that it's back to 2. And so until you build your limits up to where you've got the ability to sell thousands of items and tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, you want to keep that fairly low so it's not eating up your limits. Okay. Next thing we have here is update sold items to default quantity, and you're going to say yes or no. Okay. So this is our default quantity. This is the rule that tells them whether you want it updated. And then we've got their little explanation note here. By default, if stock did not change, then we do not update the quantity, just the price. Okay, at intervals of 30 minutes, cost 1 credit per updated item. Then the next section here, reprice. So we want that set, update sold items to default quantity. We want that set to yes. Reprice only if price increased by at least, and so you can put a dollar amount in here. Notice it says dollars there. So reprice only if price increases at least $2. So I'm going to tell them, hey, don't reprice it unless it increases at least $2. Okay. You can set whatever you want. You can have that at $1. You can have it at 1 cent. You can have that increase by, whatever you want there. The next section here is an important one for out of stock items. So here it says reprice only if price decreased by at least. No, that's not the out of stock. That's down here. Okay. So reprice if it decreases. So if the price decreases, and so notice this says set to $9,999 to never reprice because of decrease. So that's what I've done is I figure, hey, if it decreases, it just increases my profit. I'm not going to have them change the price on my account for that. Okay. So that's why they have that option there of $99.99, which is what I set mine to. If you feel like you want that competitive, price competitive edge, which is not as big a deal as so many think it is, then you could go in and change that to $5 or something. If it drops $5, then reprice your item or something like that. So you can choose whether you're going to set that or have it at the $99.99 to ignore. Set price to be rounded to the following cents. So if you want your price to be rounded to 95 cents, and so instead of $10, it'll say $10.95, then you can put something in there. Just choose, the pennies basically. Okay. So I read, for example, once that prices with 7s in them, oftentimes, for some reason, seem to sell more than anything else. So you might try and throw a 7 number in there, 37 cents or 77 cents or something like that. All right, so here, do not end out of stock items, but set the price to. So this is the one where, hey, if it's out of stock, then don't end it, but just increase the price to something high enough that people would be unlikely to buy the item, right? So that way your listing doesn't go down because it's out of stock. The price just goes up really high until the stock comes back in, and then it will come back down. Okay. So they do have the option of putting a 0 there, which equals do not use this function. Okay. And then they give you this little warning: you may reach your selling limit with this action. So they're saying that, hey, if you're continually listing a lot of items and you don't you don't have them taken down when they're out of stock, then there's a chance you might hit your selling limits. Well, that's okay. We want to hit our selling limits initially because they're only going to raise our limits once we hit those limits. So I like that idea of putting a high price in there to have it reprice it. Auto update eBay stock. So noting our stock on eBay, yes, I want that to auto update. Auto relist, days and lots. When supplier is out of stock, days in lots are ended. When supplier is back in stock, they are relisted. And so this is saying if they are going to end your items, then do you want them to relist those? And so setting that to yes means that if you do have them relist, if you do have them take down the item because of stock issues, then they'll go ahead and relist it for you. And then auto update eBay price, of course, we want set to yes. Okay. So all of those are some of the basic settings there, the first half of the settings page that need to be set up. Now, the next thing we go into is calculating eBay's selling price. What price do we want to sell it to or sell it for on eBay? And so they give a little explanation here. Buy it now formula is the one that is used for every store use, vendor price, vendor shipping as data for supplier's item, and compare price, compare shipping as data for compare item if needed. So you're usually not going to use that compare details there. So, all right, I notice here, this is not a continuous. This is 3 different bits of instruction. So the buy it now price or the buy it now formula is the one that is used for every store, your store. And then it says use the vendor price or vendor shipping as data for the supplier's item where you're getting the product. And the compare price, compare shipping is going to be used as data for comparable items, which again, not needed generally. And I would say for now, don't mess with it. And so their example is vendor price, $1.15 plus vendor shipping. They're saying if you add, you put a code in to add those together, then it's going to compare both of them. Additional formulas will be added to main formula depending on the store. Additional formulas are not required. BIN price is buy it now price equals main buy it now formula plus additional formula. And so here's my buy it now price formula. And of course, most of us are going to look at that and it's not going to make any sense at all. That's code, right? Most of us don't speak formulas. And so I would not recommend trying to type that in. Instead, you're going to come up here and click Switch to Wizard View. And this is where we put in our formulas, okay? We can save our formulas. So I could click here and say save. We could name this to 40% and save it. And there we go. Now I've got a 40%. Now, so the way I've set this up, and actually we can delete that because this 40%, my margin, that's my profit basically. So if you want to put everything in individually, you could do that. So we could say, 0 there. Fixed margin in addition to %. No, we're just going to put 0 on that. Minimum margin at least 30. PayPal, Amazon fees, dollar amount, selling and other fees, put that to 0. Include supplier shipping and calculations, yes. Convert to different currency, no to no. All right, and so I can save that again there. So now I've got my 40%. Now if I want to do another one and say, well, maybe I'll do a 35% wizard. I can save that and change it to 35. Save. So now I've got these set up in the wizard. I could come in here and say, no, I want to do the 40% as my standard. So I click 40% and click load, and it automatically changes everything to that default that I had saved. Okay. So why the 40%? Why the 35%? Basically, if you have, so we calculate our eBay fees, our PayPal fees. That's about 13% between the two of those. Tax, if we are charged sales tax, that's going to be somewhere between 5 to 10%. And so there we're up to 21%, right? And that's basically our break-even point. Is at 21%. Now, if we have shipping costs in there, then of course that's going to increase a little bit. But we have this option here to include shipping, so that would be added too. So if we want a 5% profit, then 26% is our break-even point, or our point where we're barely, scraping by, making a little bit. So at 30%, we're at about a 9% profit. So we want at least that. I would say if we can shoot for a little higher, that's better. So 35 to 40% is a good margin to do for the markup. We'll load 35 here. So that'll cover everything. That should cover your vendor tax, your all your fees, and your profit in there. Okay. Now down here we can close this wizard, or we can click the estimate price. If we click on estimate price and say the item is a $569 furniture set, so if that's our price, we put it in and click OK. Then SkuGrid says that $768.15 is what they're going to reprice our item on eBay. They're going to reprice it to that $768. Okay, well that's good. That builds in my 35%, so I have my profit and all my fees covered. Okay, so that's how it works, and you'll want to use that formula to set up. That's your overall store formula, so that'll calculate for everything. Okay, back here on this page we have another estimate final price that does the same thing as before. All right, so stay with me. I know this is arduous. There's a lot here, but once you get this set up, it is very very beneficial, and we'll show you that in just a moment. So additional formulas that fire up depending on the supplier. If you wanted to have formulas per supplier, you could do that. Again, early on, I don't recommend messing with any of that. If you want to delve into that once you're advanced, I would say after you've got 500 products or more and you're selling every week consistently, then you might look at some of that more advanced stuff. Okay. Buy box owner, use buy box owner algorithm on all items. And I'm honestly, I'm not sure what that buy box owner is. Includes shipping costs in algorithm. How often should prices be checked? What is the maximum margin you want to have? How much, by how much you want to undercut the competitor's price? Use maximum price if we are not able to beat the competitor. Yes. Okay. So that bottom section is not really necessary. And so all of these settings up here are the main thing we need to do. We click Save Settings, and that sets our store up. So now they're going to take those settings and use them. Settings were saved, so it's going to have all of that for our store, our items. So now if we come up to the top here and go to My Items, here we can see the number of credits that are left. And you can go to the credits page for more information and details. And so down here, we have each product that I have set as a drop ship. So these have to be added to eBay first. And so you'll come into your eBay account and sign in to eBay. And then you'll need to go to your listings. Now I've got the Seller Hub. If you're not on Seller Hub, then your screen might look a little different. Unfortunately, eBay doesn't give everybody the same screen. They have a different screen out there depending on your account and the way they've set it up. But with Seller Hub, you'd go to Listings, Active, and that'll show all the active listings. And then if we want to have it repriced, let's, for example, let's just say this is not a dropship item, but let's say it was. We would come up here to the address bar, click that, or just right-click that rather. In fact, let's do that. Right-click on the address bar. Notice it highlights everything there. Copy. And so we would copy that. We would come into the My Items section here. And down here it says add a single item, and we would enter that. Okay, so now that, I'm sorry, that URL doesn't go here. I'm going to go through these details on how to list an item in another webinar, so I'll go through this in more detail, but I'm just going to briefly do an overview. So the reference ID, that would be your item number. So you'd go back to your eBay item, and right here in the address bar, those numbers at the end are the item number. You can also see that down here in tiny letters, right under the description section above the item specifics on the far right. There's the number there. Now, of course, if you're viewing this on a tablet or phone app, then it's going to be totally different. And so if you're viewing it on the computer, you'll see it like this. So we need that item number and put that in as your reference ID. Okay, you could put anything in there. You could put words related to the product if you wanted. The supplier's item link, that needs to be the product from the supplier's website. So these products you can see I have listed here are from jet.com. And so this is the item. So it says this item is unavailable right now, which means if we go to my eBay listing, that should be up at the high price, the $1,000 price, instead of the $600 or $700 or whatever it is, because it's out of stock on jet.com. Okay. And so it has, you can see it in working there for me. It has increased the price the way I told it to, rather than taking the item off. So the item's still listed. It just has a very high price. Okay. If anybody does decide to buy it for that, I can probably find it a lot lower somewhere out there on Google and be able to still sell it and make a profit. So that link should be to your item. This link should be to the supplier URL. So that's what I was going to show you. The supplier URL, again, you would copy that out of the address bar there. And that is what you'll put in this section here, supplier's item link that is required. Okay. Supplier's variation name, if it's, if it has different colors or sizes or something like that, then you would put a variation in like this, blue, and then the pipe symbol, which is the shift, and the backslash right above the return or enter key. And then white, brown, whatever their variations are. Okay, so you would put those in there if needed. I wouldn't worry about that generally, but if you want to put them in there, you can. Update supplier's information on submit. So when we submit this, do we want it to update? Sure, that's defaulted to yes. All right, below you can add item that supplier's item will be compared to. So this is that compare to link. I wouldn't mess with that. That's getting into more advanced formulas that we don't need to mess with. Choose item to reprice, change stock when supplier's item changes. Okay, so this is where we can go in and say, okay, I want you to reprice my item. So reprice Skew is your item ID. So that's the item number I was just showing you there. That's up here in the address bar and down here. Okay, so that goes under this section of choose item to reprice. Marketplace, you've got to choose eBay USA right there, and then you put your item number in. That gives them enough information now that they're connected to your account with those other keys that you put in, and they've got the item number, then they can create a URL to look at and go find your item to reprice it. Okay. Pause repricing, that doesn't pause the price checking for the supplier, but if you wanted to pause the repricing initially so it's not repricing, you could set that to yes. I don't want it paused, I want it repricing right away. Selling price formula, so if we wanted to override the default selling formula, we would have to click this button here in order to enter anything into that. See, as I try to type in there, saying input disabled because I would have to override the default selling formula. So all we have to do is put our item number in there, set that to no, put the URL from the supplier, and then if we want to, a reference ID there, which I usually just put the same item number, item ID, and then add item. That's it, and that will put it onto your list. Okay, and so then everything is there for you. If we want to edit these, you'll see a list of actions over here on the right side. One of those right now, the second from the top, is edit, where you'll be taken into the edit an item screen, which is similar to the add item, where you have all of these details here and you can come in and edit any of that. Okay. So those are the basics. Again, I'm going to add more of these in another webinar. I'll go through this several times so you'll be able to see that. You've got subscription. We've got our basic settings set up. We can do an import. So if you already have 80 items over on eBay, for example, then you can come in here and say import from Marketplace. And you can click on that and you can say import all your items from eBay US. Okay, and then it will import those for you. I'm just looking at the other details here that they have. So yeah, you just click that and it's going to import everything. So I don't want to do that with my listings because out of the 100 listings or so I have up there on eBay currently, most of those are items that I actually stock, and so they're not being repriced. But once you import those, then that will give you a list of items like you're seeing here. It'll pull everything in with those items, and it'll have, it should, I believe, default to have your reprice item link here for your eBay listing. It'll have that there for you. Then you'll need to go in and get the URL from the supplier's website and enter it into that URL field. So you'll need to edit each one of those and enter that information in there that is needed. Okay. Once you've got it set, then it's set it and forget it. SkuGrid will do the rest for you. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about today is to introduce you to the stores. So up here at the top, in these links, I told you I was going to go through my items, settings, subscriptions, and stores today. And these are the main ones that you'll use. Those first four are the ones that you need to focus on. So you can request a new store. If there's a store you want that isn't listed in here, you could request it. But look at all the stores they have in here. They've got a whole big list of stores from the United States that you can use in here. Some of these are wholesale, some of them are retailers, but just a huge list of stores that you can use. And so this gives you a great big list to look at and start using. You can come into any one of these stores and find products that you would like to list and list them on there. So these are all links, they're active links. So if I want to go to Home Depot and find a product, I click on that there, and I can come into Home Depot and I can look at any of these products that they have here. I can look at what they're advertising. You know, if they're advertising it on their page, like this garage shelf storage, well, that's a pretty good indicator that they expect those things to be selling right now. So let's go list them up on our eBay account. So we would come in here to this item, for example, and here it's on sale at $99 instead of $149. Okay, and so I could go over to eBay and copy just part of that title, for example. And we can go in here and do a search for that on eBay. Oh, look at that. There's somebody selling it for $129.99, and they've sold 143 of them. Hey, there's room for profit there, right? And so I could add that product. Again, I'm not going to go into detail on that in today's webinar. I don't want this to go too long, but we'll look at that next week and go through and add a few products. But look at the stores, choose some of those, and just start adding products. Remember, you've got to go in and add it on eBay first. So you'll come in here. You can look at an active item and click Sell Now and start the listing, or you can go to Sold Listings. So from this page of the search, scroll down till you see the Show Only over here and go to Show Only Sold Listings. And then you've got Sell One Like This right away. Okay, and you can just click on that, and there I went ahead and started it. Anyway, then you can put it in there. You still need to upload the image. You need to copy and paste the description over. You need to add a price to start with. You need to set the duration, which I always recommend setting good till canceled, so it's just always up there. Quantity can just be one unless you have high enough limits to warrant doing more. Okay. So there you have it. Those are the basics to get started with SkuGrid. I encourage you to do that, and by the time you have the next webinar, you should have 100 items up there on eBay. Set that as your goal so that you're really going as aggressive as you can and get as close to that as possible, so that the next time you come in and look at it, you've got a big list of products there. So I thank you all for joining the webinar today. I hope that was helpful for you to get things started with SkuGrid. Once again, I would ask please use the link that I'm providing in the description, or as you can see on the screen here, the tinyurl.com/SkuGrid to sign up.